Oh,
Okay.
Michael. Hey,
Dan,
Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing real well, Dan. How you doing? I didn't click the
Good.
right buttons there for a minute. So let me get a little light so I can see myself. Very good, Dan. I only caught the end of your talk, but it sounded real good. So we're going to move on
Great.
to the next session here. I think we have 5 papers, so everybody gets 10 minutes, and I have a 10-minute cushion. I think the first speaker is Natalie. Are you here, Natalie? Natalie not here. Okay, may have to move on. I'm at the right spot here, right? How about Martin Hogan? Is Martin here?
Yeah, hi Michael, I am. So
Okay.
wasn't
Hey,
quite
Martin.
prepared to jump straight in, but
Looks like person number 1 isn't here. Are you giving 2 talks or one
well,
very long talk?
no. I was asked to stretch it out.
Okay. All right, so you get 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
I'll see if Natalie comes. But otherwise, please proceed.
Thank you. Let me just get myself organized
Really.
here. Just shout out when you see.
We see.
Okay.
Crisis
Cool.
and emergency management.
There we go. Right. So I just need to try and fix up the slideshow.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Right. Apologies for me fumbling around, but I honestly wasn't quite prepared for for all of this. Good evening, UK time to everybody. I know that our friends in Kuwait, it's much later than that, and for you guys in the US, you barely had your first cup of coffee and you're already into all of this. But yeah, my name's Martin Hogan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Safe Citizens, and kind of like it says on the label, we started this company 3 years ago with the express intention of trying to get bleeding edge technology to the forefront of keeping people safe. And when we say keeping people safe, we mean in the context of an emergency or an incident, where we are seeing globally. You can have a look at the data. There are very many data sources. The number of incidents that emergency services around the world are called on to attend has increased exponentially in the last 2 decades. So for instance, we are seeing more wildfires. We are seeing more climate emergencies in terms of rising oceans and tsunamis. We're seeing an increase in landslides in Southeast Asia, et cetera, et cetera. So what this all means is that you've got more emergencies, if you like, more incidents that emergency services are called on to attend, and there are ever more people that are caught up in this. And let me kind of give you one of these terrible statistics. In India, in 2019, 27,000 people lost their lives to fire, right? And most of those were in urban environments. So completely different, for instance, to the fire problems that you see in California that Dan was referring to a moment ago. And so we were looking at not necessarily, well, definitely not what we can do to prevent the emergencies or the incidents, but to enhance the capability of the emergency services inside those incidents and help them keep people safer in that environment. And we were determined that the answers could be in technology. So let me kind of start at the top. If you have a look at the current environment, what you have is, oh, hang on, this isn't working properly. Nope, that's not working. Right, guys, you're going to have to bear with me. So I'll walk and talk you through it. It's not taking some of the animation stuff, but the current problems are that in an emergency. So let's take the picture on the screen, which is a factory fire. You've got more than just the fire that is the problem. You've got the potentially toxic smoke and fumes that are going to be heading off into urban areas and influencing people in their path. And yet the emergency services themselves have no way of communicating with those people in the path of those toxic fumes. So what happens now is that in most countries you will find that either social media or even the main media itself will start trying to send out information to people and just kind of keep their fingers crossed, pray that enough people get the message that they can pass that on to their neighbors and so on. And that's really not great. So it was that gap in the capability that we started to look at, because what we do know is that we can, all of us pretty much everywhere in the world right now have a device on our person that enables people to locate us and enables people to communicate with us. And that's called a mobile phone or a cell phone. And so that was our starting point. With first principles, we recognized that mobile phones are an easy and kind of low impact way of being able to communicate with people. The problem is that you only want to be able to communicate with those people that are affected. There is technology in place that allows you to use cell towers and cell tower triangulation. Those of you in the USA will know this from your Amber Alert system, but that's massively inaccurate. It can be inaccurate to the tune of 30 kilometers. So it's not the best. The other thing, of course, is that people would prefer that any communications with them would be private, that their privacy would not be out there. And then lastly, if you're going to be using location services to locate people caught up in an incident, it requires you to have always on location services. And just think about apps like Google Maps. That drains your battery at approximately 20% per hour. So there are a few barriers that one needs to overcome if one wants to use the mobile location services and mobile devices as an adjunct to what the current capabilities of the emergency services are. So let's kind of start at the top. Let's start with the premise that we can preserve people's identities in this environment. We don't want to go down the anonymization route. Anonymization is fraught with very, very many potential issues. So we would prefer that the platform as designed would be anonymous. And we can do that. We can create mobile applications that act as independent agents on a device and would communicate only with its own backend, be identified by an ID that is given to it by the backend, and that's it. The other way of being able to identify users based on their location is if you've got their history, the tracking history, where they've been, where they visited, where they live, where they work. So in this instance, it's relatively straightforward. We can just delete any history and allow the system to only keep your latest position. So essentially that's kind of the first hurdle cleared. The second hurdle is much worse, much tougher, and that's the battery drain. Suffice to say, it took us 3 years, a lot of money, and a lot of heartache, but we got there in the end. We've taken that 20% per hour, and we've reduced that by 97% to about 1% per day. So in essence, what we have is the ability to be able to locate people based on their mobile devices without it affecting their battery drain at all. So we've got something that's unobtrusive and that's private and that works. So that leads us then to being able to engage with a fully integrated, fully digital platform that allows a number of things. Firstly, it allows the emergency services to have what's known as situational awareness or operational oversight. They can have a look at a screen after an emergency call comes in and be able to call up and see the devices that are located at the scene of that emergency. And be able to start judging the degree to which X number of people are in danger, etc., etc. They can zoom in and just, if you like, highlight those devices with whom they want to communicate and send them appropriate messages. And they can do that before they even arrive on scene, because they can do this entirely remotely. In this kind of fully integrated environment, what we are able to give emergency services is the ability to, in real time, be able to see people in as much as dots on a map, communicate with them, send them messages as to what they want to do, send differentiating messages. So you might want one lot of people to be heading west and another lot of people to be heading east. And being able to send those differentiated messages is a huge boon to the abilities that we're talking about right now. So that's kind of what we've been able to build. And so we now are in a position to be able to, sorry, forgive me, to be able, and I just want to see whether or not, yeah, there we go. Okay, so these are working. Being able to give situational awareness, so the emergency operators can see what's going on the ground, if you like, in a virtual way. It's highly accurate. It's what it says on the tin is 10 meters, but actually in certain environments it's down to 5 meters. It's 100% under the control of the authorities. So whoever has jurisdictional power, if you like, in that particular place, they're the ones who control the platform. So it's not reliant on any third parties giving them the information, or any third parties deciding which areas they want to be clearing or alerting people in. It's 100% in the hands of those authorities, effectively whose job it is to do this. It's quick. One of the areas that we have seen in the past with older technology, like location-based SMS, is that you can get what's known as contention. So the mobile system becomes a bit jammed up, a bit clogged, and we've all experienced this, right? Where an SMS message arrives 5, 10, 15 minutes late, and clearly in an emergency that is not something that is ideal. So we've moved away from SMS, strongly away, fully digitized it, and so in essence we use instant messaging, which is, you know, has the same speed, if you like, to a WhatsApp message, which is the easiest way to kind of understand it. We can also allow the emergency services to see their own responders in relation to those who are, you know, who they're there to protect and rescue, and this makes the deployment of responders much easier and much more accurate. You can send your responders directly to a group of people or a place to wait for others to arrive, etc. So and you can see this all in live time. And that becomes really, really important if you need to start diverting responders away. And then the other thing is that it's easily integrated in terms of how you can deploy this. So the whole idea is that you might have emergency services and ambulance services and fire and police and everything, you know, what we here in the UK refer to as blue light services, all rushing towards a single area, and this simply helps with coordination of that. So you can send an ambulance to a particular area, not necessarily to the command center or the command vehicle. And so you do get this layered approach where you can see civilians, you can see ambulance workers, police, fire, etc., and be able to divert them with ease. The whole idea being this fits into the existing protocols that emergency services are faced with. And then from the user's perspective, and this is kind of important because We want people to be able to download whatever version of the app is deemed most suitable. So it might be a new app that is launched by a local authority. It might be an existing civilian app that a local authority already has, and in which case we can simply drop this capability into that existing application. So we don't have to go around the houses about maybe too many apps on the phone. And it's designed essentially to be a file and forget. Because it's unobtrusive, it doesn't use up your battery. Because it's private, it doesn't, it doesn't impact your privacy. It'll operate in the background. Even if it's switched off, it'll work. It'll keep updating your latest location, and come the time that you need it, it'll wake up, it'll send you everything, and you can open up the app for additional information. And that additional information is really your vision. So imagine taking the phone out of your pocket and opening up the application. You will see where you are in relation to the danger and the scale of the problem and which direction you need to move in, so you can self-navigate clear. Very often there's simply too many things going on for the emergency services to turn around and say to each individual where we need you to go. You want to be able to give them more general direction, so head east, head west, head north, or whatever that might be. But at least each individual will be able to see where they are in relation to the danger. And then I think the other piece is confidence. We've had numerous incidents here in the UK where, for instance, there was a now rather infamous example in Oxford Street in London. A car backfired, but some Twitter influencer happened to be in one of the stores and fired out a tweet that there'd been a bomb in Oxford Street. And it caused mayhem, it caused panic. People were running up and down in opposite directions in every which way. So this is kind of one of the key reasons why we don't like to see these suggestions of, oh, we need to engage with the social media channels more often, et cetera, et cetera. They are simply not trustworthy. And the other thing is, if I wanted to, I could spoof pretty much any account I like. I could spoof the Metropolitan Police here in London. I could spoof, NYPD. It doesn't really matter. It's very, very easy to create fake accounts that look like the real thing on Facebook and Twitter and the like. So high levels of confidence in your user group is crucial. And knowing that this message is coming from the authorities that count, that have that responsibility, kind of makes a big difference. So that's it. That's what we've brought to the marketplace. We're looking to have a global footprint. We're working in multiple countries with multiple organizations right now, and some of them kind of cool. But thank you very, very much for your attention. I apologize that not all my slides worked the way that the last two did, but I hope I got the message across, and you're very, very welcome to ask questions if there are any in the remaining couple of minutes that I've got in my presentation.
Hi, Professor Michael, and hi, Martin.
Hey,
thank you so
Hanadi,
much
how
for
are you?
nice. I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. I was called upon earlier than I was ready for, but that doesn't matter. I think I handled it.
Yeah.
No problem. Things is fine.
You did a very wonderful job, Martin. So this is really something you think could be applied to almost all countries around the world.
Yes, we do.
Right.
So,
and yeah.
No, so as part of our validation process and part of our planning process, we built a model that essentially looks at the risk profile of every settlement on the planet with more than 50,000 people of population, right? And that allows you to prioritize where the first places are to go, and who has a greater need, because we have limited bandwidth to reach out for that. And it's very clear where most of those are, and that's the Pacific Rim of Fire, right? So if you have a look around Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, places like that, the east coast of Japan in particular, and the west coast of North and South America. Those are the places that just endemically have the highest risk profiles. But that doesn't take away the fact that there are literally thousands of other places in the world that have a need for this kind of technology. There's no doubt about it.
Yes, some of these things, particularly fires, bad fires, which create a lot of smoke.
Yep.
The reach of the smoke could be thousands of miles even.
Yep.
I know when California had all those fires, I live on the East Coast, a week later, we saw all this smoke coming our way. So it's interesting to have the app. I guess you have to figure out how much of a geography each app would cover.
Yeah, and I think that this, it comes down to the jurisdiction and what we are told by the authorities, right? So we can't overreach ourselves. We have to obviously accede to what they require of us. But I do think that there's the ability, if it looks like it's crossing boundaries into somebody else's jurisdiction, that they can fire up the same tool and run those alerts in that same, if you like, passage of danger. So I think that that's relatively straightforward. It is interesting though, Michael, because we know, for instance, that California spent billions of dollars putting these UAV swarms up above the hot zones for wildfires, and yet when it comes to alerting those people that are going to be at risk, they still require door knocking.
Huh.
Right, so that's the gap. The gap we're looking to close. Is why put responders at risk when we can do it faster, much more accurately, and leave the responders to do kind of more important things like fight the fire and help the vulnerable. But so everywhere, and it's not a it's not a developed country or a developing country problem. It's a worldwide problem, and we all need to kind of face up to this and do something about it.
And in terms of cost, getting this implemented, particularly for some of the less than developed countries, it doesn't seem like there'd be a tremendous amount of cost to get this going.
No, it's not. It really isn't. It's designed to fit in with existing systems. All you need to be able to do is basically take something that we've already designed, and it's a bit of a turnkey solution. Just plug this into your current system, and literally about 10 minutes worth of training and you're good to go.
Yeah. Any kind of language issues, I guess they can all be resolved too.
Honestly, those are easily resolved. We can even do multilingual ones. So what we're planning to do in certain areas like Europe, where I'm based, where you have a ubiquity system. So the Germans, the French, and the Spanish and the English might all have their own version of the application. And I go to Germany, my English app will work in Germany if there's an alert that goes out. And you can build a backend that says, okay, his language is English. I'll auto translate it through, even though the alert's coming down in German. That's not difficult to do.
I'm thinking about the Quebec province in Canada, where they speak both English and French, and that's a little bit of a subject between.
Well, you've got to try. Yeah, Michael, you've got to try my home country, which is South Africa. There are 11 official languages in South Africa.
And I guess if you can work that out, a couple of languages in Canada will be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Excellent, Martin. That was excellent. Thank you very much.
No, you're very, very welcome.
We all appreciate your presentation. I looked at the participants. I didn't see Natalie here. I'm assuming she's still not here. Hearing nothing. I know Miguel is here. Miguel, yes. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready when you are.
You may fire when ready.
Okay. May I share the screen? Can I share the screen?
I believe you can.
Okay. I'll try.
Well,
first of all, hello everyone. I'm Miguel. I'm the CEO of GBO, Global International Networking Club, and I'm going to discuss a bit about business networking and the importance of this tool in business. So I'm going to share the screen now. I hope it works. Please let me know if you can all see it properly.
It says you've started sharing, but I don't see anything.
Okay. It says I'm sharing the screen, so I'm not sure.
Ah, there we go.
Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
All right. So, well, as I said, I want to talk about the importance of business networking, because I think that it is one of the most neglected tools that we business owners and entrepreneurs have at our reach. What is business networking? In a nutshell, it is the process of interacting with others, sharing information, knowledge, experiences, opportunities, contacts. It is what makes us animals in a sense. We are humans, but we are animals. We are social, and we have to interact with each other. We are not alone, and when we interact with others, we are stronger. Networking can take different forms. It can be formal, it can be informal, and different setups. But the importance of every part of them is crucial, and it's a vital part of business networking, of modern business. And most of us are afraid of what we're going to find when we network, but most of the time it's quite easy. It means that when you network, you are not alone. You are in a community, and your business network is that community. You have to find what you can add to that community, how you can contribute, what you can do for others, and how that community can help you achieve your goals, no matter what they are. And sometimes I like to say that networking begins when your comfort zone ends, because it's not always easy to interact with others. As much for many people, is much more comfortable to just stay where you are, keep having relationships with your peers and with your employees, etc. But when you have to go out and get yourself in front of a crowd and try to start interacting, you feel that confidence. You are in uncharted territory for you, with people that you have met for the first time, and you need to make an effort. And when we make that effort, we have to diversify the approach, and we have to interact. We have to make or take all the opportunities we have to interact with each other. And there are plenty of them. We have meetings in person. We have meetings live. We have online seminars, talks, sessions, like in the one we are now. And we have a myriad of things that we can harness every day, and we have to be careful of what we do, but open to do as many things as we can. And the goal of it, in my opinion, is to develop long-term relationships. When we interact, we have to stop thinking in the short term and start thinking long-term, start thinking in developing trust, in developing connections and real connections with people and long-term relationships. When you go to a meeting, you have to prepare in advance. If you go to a meeting without having had a proper thought about what you're going to do there, maybe you don't get as much value as you could. So my tips here are prepare in advance. When you are networking, use your time wisely. You just have so much time to network, and you have to make the most out of it. So focus on having relevant connections. Try to look in advance who is coming, who are going to be the ones that are going to be more important for you in the long term, and try to interact with them. And again, start building trust, start focusing on long-term. Nobody or very few people like to be approached on a cold way, just to be handed a business card and I am Miguel, I sell this, do you want to buy? That is like, you're spamming me. I don't want to hear this. Who are you? So focus on that. People are interested in knowing people and knowing who is the person behind that company or the person behind that business card, and how you can build a meaningful and long-term relationship that can bring you lots of value and to which you can also contribute. And one last thing, be yourself. It is very important that you don't try to be someone else and that you connect in a personal level. When you try to pitch something, you most of the times are not yourself because you are what you want to sell. But try to be yourself, try to cultivate that brand, that personal brand that will in the end connect in the personal level. And when you connect in the personal level, everything is much easier. Don't just stop there. You have to get involved. Networking can be a passive thing or an active thing. You can go to a networking event and just start getting input, or you can get active and host a meeting, host a webinar, participate in a talk, perform a presentation. When you speak, you boost your credibility and you showcase what you have to show, what your skills are. And it is much easier to get the interaction of your audience if you are the speaker. If you're just one of the listeners, well, you can maybe ask a question or interact in the Q&A. But when you are having that talk or that webinar, most probably everyone will ask, everyone will interact with you later on. So it is very important to step up and say, well, today I'm going to be the protagonist of this story. And most of the time we forget that we are experts in what we do. And even if for us, the knowledge that we have is something that we are used to it, and maybe we don't give it the relevance it has, for others that are not in your industry or that doesn't have your background, you have many things to show and many things to contribute. So tap into that knowledge that you have, try to exchange it, try to help others. And when you exchange knowledge with others, you will also receive and grow along the way. And the path doesn't end here. I mean, you have started networking, you have discovered that this is a tool that it is at your fingertips and you can benefit from it, but don't stop there. You have to keep your relationships. It's not just make good connections, but try to care for them. Try to stay in touch. Try to reach out from time to time. If you are in mutual groups or clubs, etc., it is much easier to keep that contact. But if you are not, try to, from time to time, stay in touch, share an article, give a ring, exchange a couple of WhatsApp. That keeps the conversation going, the relationship live, and it makes that effort that you have put into the relationship worth. And be a matchmaker. What is being a matchmaker? You have to be able to identify all the opportunities that come in front of you every day. And those that you can't take it, don't let them go. Just take them and give them to someone else. If you think that person A has to talk with person B because they are going to make a good connection and they can have a mutual benefit, go for it and introduce them. Here is Maria, here is Jose, you have to talk. And be responsive. Don't ghost don't ghost people. Answer to their emails, answer to their messages, even if it's with a polite no, but try not to be irresponsive and just ghost people, because, well, we all know how it feels when you are the one ghosted. And help your network. When you help others, you help yourself, but helping others is not just promoting yourself. It is more effective if you help others without taking any interest in what you're going to get. Just offer help, say thank you, be kind, and everything will pay back. And that was mostly it. I don't want to take much longer, because I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions or any comments. So I'm here at your disposal, and thank you for your attention.
Very good, Miguel. It was very well presented. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Okay.
Thank you. Excuse me, Professor Mike. Thank you so much, Miguel, for your presentation. And you hire most important things about the networking and a great relationship. This is also one of the objectives of from large conference, our conference between the practitioner, bridging between the countries, bridging between the human. And specifically, we are under one umbrella, under innovation ecosystem and entrepreneurial ecosystem, artificial intelligence ecosystem, and also technology ecosystem. Everybody want to having a great networking. And I hire in this conference who have a platform with supporting by AI to matching all the speakers with all the attendee, and with also social media. Thank you so much, Miguel, for highlighting this point. Go ahead, Professor Mike.
Thank you for having me.
The comments are certainly well taken, Miguel. I was just going to say, personal relationships in business, I think, are extremely important. And once you can network and you sort of get to know somebody and you feel comfortable, it also builds a certain level of trust. So that if you have a problem that you need, rather than go to somebody you don't know, you go to somebody that you do have a relationship and some trust with. It ends up making things, I think, very much beneficial to everyone. Also gives a little more credibility to people when I think you have a good personal relationship. So I know I try to emphasize to a lot of my students and some entrepreneurs I do some consulting work with, I try to emphasize the value of networking and the value of building these personal relationships. And you emphasize, I think, very well that not only does it goes beyond just actually meeting them and talking to them, it goes into exchanging an email now and then, or some kind of a message. And if you can maintain those relationships, I think it's very valuable to everybody on both sides. You know, if somebody does something for you and you had a problem, you reached out to somebody in your network, they ended up helping you solve the problem, you're usually very grateful. And then you say, boy, if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to ask. And that, I think, makes things much better for everybody. So I think the points in your presentation here are extremely well taken. They certainly fit into the real world.
Excuse me, Professor Michael, same as our relationship, right?
Exactly. We've had a 20-year relationship that's just marvelous, and more than 20 years. Excellent. I'm getting a little older. Okay, let's move on.
Still young, Professor Mike.
I'm trying.
If I may have 30 seconds,
surely.
I will. Just the last tip, and based on experience, try to connect every time you have someone in front of you. It doesn't matter if it's in person, on the phone, on an email, whatever. Do not multitask when you are in front of other people. Try to connect. If it's 30 seconds, it's 30 seconds. If it's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes, but give those seconds to that person and the connection will be real. If you're just checking other thing or looking at whatever, thinking in another place, it's not going to work. Thank you again.
Excellent point, Miguel. Thank you very much. We all appreciate that. Okay, the last paper in this segment, I hope I pronounced the name right, Emery Serpin.
Yes, hello.
Was I close to pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, I think you've done really well.
Yes,
you.
Imra. Accept my apology, Imra, what's happening today, okay? I hope so.
No problem, no problem. I think these are all interesting sessions and they're kind of common threads. So firstly, thank you, Dr. Hanadi, for inviting us. So we are very pleased to be here. High quality speakers and interesting discussions. So I like to share my screen now for the first presentation. So normally you have a screen share. So let's do that. Okay. So I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So, well, I've been in the generally consulting, strategy, digital for 40 years now. I established and led aviation practices, most of the consulting and technology companies that you know. And 12 years ago, I established my own company, Troyavi, and we work with travel and transport, aviation, in the fields of strategy, digital transform, a lot of AI implementations and projects ranging from very large, like helping technology companies with $500 million outsourcing contracts and renovating technology with all end-to-end AI, customer service, operations, and some of our clients now, they are like best airports, best airlines in the world, to more specific applications. We also do strategy work, transformation work, and digital transformation work. A part of that, more recently, we started working for the past 3-4 years now, startup companies. Some of those includes AI, some robotics, some personal air mobility. It's been great fun. So what I have in this presentation really is a synthesis of many different projects. How do we see AI making an impact in innovation? Both developing ideas, but also institutionalizing and synthesizing innovation in a management process, like a big company. How can you implement, and what is the role of AI? So it's quite specific. So by the way, we have also operations in Dubai and in some other countries. So this is who we are. So firstly, when we say AI, often people think, oh, well, it's one thing. It's actually quite broad. You have a lot of different elements under systems. You've got different disciplines. You've got different tools and methods. And what's interesting is in each cycle, I mean, today we'll talk about first, innovation development, and second, a process institutionalization. AI has roles to play. And in that, you are combining, mixing, and matching different elements from that portfolio. So it's quite broad and quite complex. So I did my doctorate in cybernetics, and AI was a big element in that. Early 80s, people used to debate whether or not AI can simulate human intelligence. We used to discuss tertiary and secondary and tertiary processing. And there was very strong school of thought. People used to say that you need to have survival instinct to be able to have tertiary processing. And that's strictly, human domain or living organism domain. But the recent developments showing that it's just complexity management. AI can do anything. So a couple of interesting charts here. I like to look at what happened like 90s to 2015s and more recent years. We see that the development really started. If you look at publishing and patterns that relates to AI, whether it's, you see that there is a very quick development from 2010, 2005, 2015. So the progress has accelerated, and you'll see in the subsequent charts, it is far more now in recent years. So as I said earlier, our first perspective is innovation cycle. How do we observe problems? How do we develop solutions? Developing trends, developing ideas. What is the role of AI? Can AI really innovate and develop a product? I have another presentation later, and I chose the topic. I thought about, well, what's most kind of non-mathematical? And I thought, okay, let's try fragrance development. It's supposed to be emotional, it's smell. It's a last topic for AI. And we got an example of how do you train an AI algorithm developing, fragrances. The second one is more management process. And then we are going to see the best practice and the role of AI can play in the managing innovation in companies. So here is a quick research. I think this has been a survey done by BCG and Google. BCG is one of the leading consulting companies, and they predicted that 10% revenue growth can be driven by AI, use of AI in problem solving, can do demand forecasting, customer preferences. And already AI today, as we speak, in terms of investment, as big as cloud-based solutions. Now, the cloud is, as you know, the biggest thing in IT in terms of investment, and AI is already up there. So it's not future, it's kind of now. So let's look at the AI is the innovation ideas development process. So you have identification, you have development, you have execution. So typically the lack of access to information scope for people recognizing, discovering, and creating innovative ideas. The more information you have, the easier it gets. With access to more information quickly, especially with IoT now, imagine you are connected to the world, you are collecting huge amounts of data, AI algorithms are driving patterns. It's going to do this a lot quicker than people. So you are going to get a lot more opportunity to identify problems to innovate by using AI technologies, okay? And then by using machine learning, by using AI, all in cloud, you are going to get into a much faster development cycle. So that's going to put a lot of competitive pressure between companies who are using those tools versus who are people relying few strategy experts locked in a room and trying to imagine the world. There won't be much competition. So the companies who institutionalize AI will lead. And also, AI can aggregate the experience of multiple experts that can be accessed by users. This is very important. So you're providing a platform for experts and you're synthesizing that. So we'll see examples of how this happens. Now, if again, going back to our survey, so there are some interesting questions. 163 qualified participants. Can you imagine AI autonomously developing your product without people involvement? Do you want AI to take the creative tasks within the innovation process? Which stages of innovation are more suitable for AI? So on and so forth. And it's interesting, the most pronounced areas became AI is used identifying needs. What are the needs, problems that's going to benefit from innovation? That was tops. But also increase the efficiency of the innovation process. So the good news for us humans, we still have a role to play. I don't know how many years for now, we are still good. So still using AI, augmenting the innovation rather than replacing us. Let's look at a second perspective, which is a company. How you are going to use AI in the management of the company, innovation management, ultimately driving the profitability up in the company. The cycle is usual. You have to analyze and assess. You can look at externally what's going on in the world, the competitors, products, consumers, what they want, who is doing what. So here, it's all about benchmarking and gap analysis, trends, discontinuities, scenario formulation. It's one thing doing a group of strategy team doing it. It's another thing you are using fully integrated IoT, real-time data capture, cloud, and AI running on this pattern. So you are going to have a massive advantage when you are doing that. And also AI in knowledge management, which is very different to data processing, which is much more important. And getting into the views, the world of digital twins. Whatever your real process is, you create a digital twin in the AI knowledge world, and you start working with that. And then, you know, the chatbots, you are interacting with people through systems. So we'll see some examples of that. So you have a role for AI. It's more than role for AI. AI is going to replace, take over. Still, there will be a role for people, but maybe it's 20/80, one of those Pareto rules. Now, then you get into creating the future. First, you look at the patterns, you look at where you need to go, and how do you develop a vision? How do you develop a strategy? It's all about developing different options, different scenarios, and trying to select and synthesize what might happen, what are the probability, and you position yourself, whether it's a service, a product, or you're trying to improve your costs. There, of course, big data, AI data lakes becomes very important. And there are some platforms in the market, for instance, our partner Innovation 360, actually it does that for you. It actually creates scenarios for you. It's incredible when I first saw it. And also it enables collaborative strategy development. For instance, did a project, one of the leading airlines in Europe recently. You know, normally it's an innovation project, how the airline is going to position itself post-COVID environment, and what should they do towards the customers. They're also employees. 30,000 people participated. You cannot process this kind of thing, you know, without this kind of AI support. It's just the quantity of information overwhelming. And it kind of worked beautifully. We reduced to 12 things to do out of so many people, so many things. They all got implemented. And then you get into the management of more innovation. You identified the issues, then prioritization, campaign design, implementation, and then you get into autonomous innovation. Is there any innovation that can happen without people getting involved in the process? And yes, there is. You have a lot of autonomous innovation. And then innovation labs, for instance, we established one for one of our clients where you test out ideas. So that was an airport. You might argue, I think this is not a very innovative business process, but there is. You find out a lot of things that's going to make the experience easier and better. And also, nobody talks about that there is innovation standards. And believe it or not, AI is also helping out there. There are specific examples. And finally, execution. It's portfolio management, continuous improvement. Again, when you are doing it on a platform with the help of AI, it's much proactive and collaborative. So here again, we kind of like to test some of these things, and we've talked about idea generation and identification in the same survey. We also get some very high ranking in terms of making ideas reality, concept testing, prototyping, marketing, innovation projects. So it's really getting into implementation as well. So here is then how do you get innovate? How do you manage innovation in a big company with lots of? It's not just highly paid few executives and then few MBAs around them doing their thing. How do you synthesize the entire company contributing to developing new ideas, defining initiatives, creating campaigns, collecting ideas, and then clustering them, and then develop hypotheses, experiment. Again, I think use of platforms, innovation platforms, leveraging AI, that's the way to go. So these things are so advanced now, you can interact with them through mobile phones, and then you have every step is prioritized for you. And you know, as an executive or as a manager, if you are running the program, you can really differentiate on important things. You don't waste your time in a lot of you know, things that you normally do. So that's a little bit of background. Let's come to our industry, the industry that we've been operating for 30 years, travel. here is some examples. What's going on in the travel industry? So all of the companies, airlines, airports, railways, everybody is trying to respond to a digital world. The new millennium generation, everybody has got mobile phones, everybody is savvy. So somebody in an earlier presenter said the digital meta world or meta world. So how do you present yourself there? So for instance, inspiration, AI can select customer preferences. And AI can formulate, here is a destination for you. Match up, like Dr. Hanadi earlier say, matching people and topics and participants, you are able to do that all the time. So you present the best offers to the most likely passengers to take. And then you don't need frequently asked questions anymore. It's chatbots. You call the airport or airline, and airport tells you your flight is at 9 o'clock. You are Mr. Michael Bustler. I could see your name. Your flight is 9 o'clock. Your daughter's is got a, 20 years old. Birthday, here is a present for you. By the way, you come at 3 o'clock, bypass security queues, so on and so forth. So the airport is creating engagement with each person, or the earlier gentleman presenter, Miguel said. So it's doing that all the time. So to be able to do that, you need lots of people. But AI can do this very quickly with a lot of people creating brand. And then you can convert that to retail. You can sell a lot of things. People are sitting on an aircraft, watching movies. They can interact with these systems, and they're buying a lot of goods through a digital platform, sending the goods directly to you. So you don't need big shops at the airports anymore, or you can reduce them. And you get into digital twins, clones. You can you create your operation as a digital twin. You predict what's going on real time because you can see the aircraft coming, going. You can forecast. You can take predictive actions. Things don't fail anymore. Everything is on time, and so on. So here is some of our startup partners we have. You may recall the Concorde accident, for instance, in early 80s. One fire in Paris, and that was the end of Concorde. It was taken off the service. That was because of a tire on the runway. Instead of people going around and checking for debris in the runway, one of our partner companies, they do that through AI. They're doing London, they're doing Gatwick, they're doing several airports innovation. So another example, companies that we are working with, it's developing robots, and these robots are used. We have a POC starting up to sanitize against COVID at night. And guess what? During the day, they're going to serve your burgers, your drinks in the lounge areas. So it's kind of shape of things to come, and you're going to see these things.
Emery, excuse me a minute. We're pressing at the end of the time here. I know the next session has a lot.
Finishing. So this is an airport.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You see the same things in banks. In fact, this one is Dubai Robo Cafe. You can even have with medical. You are talking to a chatbot instead of a doctor. And then finally is an example of digital twin. You are synthesizing your operation. You can see what's going on. You can proactively interact with reality. Anyway, I hope I didn't overspend my time too much. This is my presentation. In the second one, you can see a real-time, real application later.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That was an excellent paper. I mean, it's something we can talk about. I had a bunch of comments. Real quickly, I find a lot of people in the public tend to fear this. And even automation, and they're afraid that it's going to take away my job and there won't be anything left for me to do. I always looked at it exactly the opposite. I think all of these automation and artificial intelligence will make labor much more productive. And I think in the long run, that's going to have a much greater positive effect than any perhaps structural unemployment issues it may create in the short run.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very right. Just to give an actual example, we develop a national model for our country for digital logistics, digital cargo. So, the first, some of the reactions we had, freight forwarders and so on, they said, oh, you're going to replace our jobs. We say, no, You don't need to run around paper. You don't need to call people. You don't need to send PDF documents anymore. You do what you do exactly, but you use through the intelligence system. It makes your life a lot easier. You connect with people. You don't just paper.
Makes you much more productive, I think, in the longer term. And that's
as you say, thing. I think it's a question of change management. It takes some time, but it'll come.
Thank you very much. As I say, I'd love to talk about this longer, but I think David is up to chair the next session.